The royals owe me. Harry owes me. Meghan owes me. What I've been through, I should be rewarded for.
Well, the bottom line, I know for a fact that she had frozen her eggs and had planned to come back, and she had come back for frozen. She had flown back to get her eggs.
What if everything we've been told about Meghan Markle's motherhood was a lie? No, this isn't some wild internet conspiracy. It's a theory backed by her own family members, with receipts that are hard to ignore. We're talking about egg freezing, a possible hysterectomy, and children who may not be biologically hers. And yet, no one in the mainstream media is touching it. Why? Because the deeper you dig into this story, the more questions start piling up, and the fewer answers you'll find. From mysteriously missing pregnancy photos to awkward public appearances that feel more like staged PR shoots than real family moments, something about Meghan and Harry's parenthood just doesn't add up. And if even a piece of this is true, it doesn't just rewrite Meghan's story. It exposes one of the biggest image deceptions in royal history. Let's break it all down. It all starts with a quiet bombshell, one that came not from tabloids, but from Meghan Markle's own blood. Her father publicly claimed she had her eggs removed and frozen years before Harry was even in the picture. And her brother? He doubled down, saying she underwent a hysterectomy shortly after. Let that sink in. According to her own family, Meghan may have made it medically impossible to carry children long before the royal romance began. If that's true, then what are we supposed to believe about Archie and Lilibet? Are we talking about secret surrogacies? Adoption? Something else entirely? What's even more suspicious is how these allegations have been shrugged off by the press, like they're too messy to touch. But when the people closest to you start leaking details that rewrite your entire narrative, silence suddenly becomes deafening. Thomas Markle's accusations didn't come out of thin air. They came from a fractured relationship that once looked close. He paid for Meghan's schooling, supported her acting dreams, and was once proud to be her biggest cheerleader. But according to him, everything changed when Prince Harry entered the picture.
And she's changed. She's not the daughter I knew. My daughter was a much more giving, loving person than she is now.
Calls stopped. Contact was cut. When he suffered a heart attack days before her wedding, Meghan didn't visit. She moved on without him. That's when the distance became permanent. And ever since, he's accused her of rewriting her origin story, one that, in his eyes, erases the man who got her there.
To hear, that I'm ghosted and I don't exist, and she did this on her own, is very hurtful.
While Meghan was reportedly distancing herself from her family, she was also facing financial strain. Before Harry, before royal connections, she was still a struggling actress trying to make it in a brutal industry, which brings us to a much bigger question. How did she manage the high costs tied to her fertility journey, if those claims were true? Here's where things get even murkier. Freezing your eggs isn't a one-time deal. You've got to pay thousands every month just to keep them stored, somewhere in the ballpark of $8,000 to $9,000. But back then, Meghan was hardly living a life of luxury. On Suits, she was reportedly pulling in about $7,000 an episode, and she wasn't even featured in many of them. When fans crunched the numbers, her total screen time across all episodes added up to just over 2 hours. That's blink and you miss it territory. So how exactly was she supposed to afford long-term storage for her eggs? If she couldn't, then those eggs are likely long gone. Now fast forward a few years, and she appears with not one, but 2 royal children. You don't need to be a conspiracy theorist to raise an eyebrow. Because if the eggs were lost, and she truly had a hysterectomy, then the most logical question becomes unavoidable. Where did these kids actually come from? Here's the part that really messes with people's heads. For someone as media savvy as Meghan, her public moments of motherhood feel strangely hollow. Where are the candid hugs, the spontaneous kisses, the messy, chaotic moments every parent knows all too well? Instead, what we get are carefully curated photos. Kids stiffly posed, Meghan looking more like a brand ambassador than a mom. Observers have pointed out that in many appearances, the children seem more like stage props than family. Take the Disneyland outing, for example. The little girl spotted with them one day didn't quite match the one seen the next. Different clothes? Sure, but different face shape? Different height? That's the kind of detail that makes people pause. Is it really just the same child? Or are we looking at a rotation of stand-ins? When your own children start sparking spot the difference comparisons online, something is clearly off. And then came the video that blew the lid off everything, the now infamous hospital clip. Meghan, during the height of pandemic restrictions, was seen in what appeared to be a maternity ward. Not just seen, but dancing, laughing, twerking, with what many viewers swore looked like a foam pregnancy belly. It wasn't just a little suspicious, it was straight up bizarre. Hospitals were under tight lockdown rules at the time. People couldn't visit loved ones, let alone walk into a maternity ward with a camera crew to film content. So, how did Meghan get in? And more importantly, why? The belly in question didn't just look fake, it moved like it. Viewers zoomed in, slowed the footage, and spotted unnatural shifts and folds, the kind you'd expect from a poorly fitted prop. If this wasn't a pregnancy belly, then what was it? A photo op, a media stunt, or something more calculated? Whatever it was, it didn't scream motherhood. It screamed manipulation, and the internet hasn't stopped asking questions since. You don't have to be a body language expert to feel the disconnect. Every time Meghan talks about her children in interviews or public appearances, something just feels flat. There's no spark, no emotion, no proud mom energy. It's as if she's reciting lines rather than reflecting real memories. Even her facial expressions seem carefully rehearsed. Smiles that don't reach the eyes, responses that feel overly polished or weirdly performative, and people are noticing. Viewers have commented that Meghan doesn't show the instinctive warmth most mothers radiate when speaking about their kids. No playful anecdotes, no glowing stories, just generic talking points and camera-ready sound bites. It's not hate, it's observation, and what makes it truly unsettling is that this cold distance isn't a one-off. It's a pattern, one that grows more noticeable with each appearance. And when you pair that with the lack of unfiltered family moments, it's no wonder people are starting to suspect there's more going on behind the scenes than anyone's willing to admit. Now, let's talk paperwork, because this is where things go from strange to shady. At one point, it was reported that Meghan had her royal title removed from her child's birth certificate, only to add it back later. Why? That's not a normal thing to do. In fact, using a royal title as a legal name in the US is already a legal gray area. Yet somehow, both Archie and Lilibet's documents slipped through with those titles intact. According to insiders, even US immigration officials were confused and reportedly reached out to King Charles himself for clarification. That doesn't happen unless something looks seriously off. And it begs the question, why all the paperwork gymnastics? If everything about these births was above board, why the inconsistencies? Why the edits? Why the secrecy? Because from the outside, it doesn't look like record keeping, it looks like damage control. And when even government agencies are scratching their heads, the mystery goes deeper than just a royal branding issue. It starts to look like a cover-up. Let's not pretend Harry's just some innocent bystander caught in the storm. He's not. If Meghan is orchestrating a carefully curated narrative, Harry is right there beside her, smiling for the cameras, pushing the same story, and demanding royal recognition for the children at every turn. Remember when Queen Elizabeth reportedly made it clear that HRH titles wouldn't be extended to children of royals who walked away from their duties? Well, Harry didn't just ignore that. He allegedly pressured King Charles to override it. And guess what? Charles caved. The man who was supposed to restore the monarchy's reputation handed out those titles like party favors. That move didn't just raise eyebrows, it sent shockwaves through royal circles. Because if Meghan's story is even partly fabricated, then Harry isn't just complicit. He's an active player. A former prince who once blasted the press for invading his privacy now appears to be managing public image like a Hollywood publicist, calling the paparazzi when it benefits him, suing them when it doesn't. It's hypocrisy at full blast. And it only fuels the suspicion that their entire narrative is more performance than reality. This is the million-dollar question. Why would anyone go through all this trouble? Why the moon bump? Why the staged photo ops? Why the legal gymnastics? For many, the answer is simple: brand value. Meghan didn't just marry into the royal family. She saw the influence, the reach, the power, and she wanted a permanent seat at the table. And what better way to lock that in than through children? 2 kids born into royalty, carrying HRH titles, cement Meghan's name into royal history. Whether she physically gave birth to them or not becomes almost irrelevant if the public buys into the illusion. That's long-term leverage. That's influence she can trade on forever. Public appearances, book deals, Netflix documentaries. The children aren't just family, they're PR assets. But here's the catch. The more tightly she holds onto the narrative, the more the cracks begin to show. And the more she tries to maintain control, the more people begin to wonder, is this really a family? Or is it a brand campaign dressed up as one? No matter how carefully you build a story, cracks eventually start to show. And Meghan's carefully crafted image is splitting at the seams. Watch any clip of her holding the children, and the body language tells a different story. Stiff posture, no natural eye contact, no soothing touches. It's like watching someone hold a borrowed child, not their own. In one video, she awkwardly grips a toddler like it's her first time doing so. Meanwhile, there's always an assistant or handler just off frame, ready to step in, guide the child, or manage the moment. And then there's the photos. Every image released is so perfectly lit, so meticulously edited, it feels less like a family album and more like a lifestyle campaign. No raw hospital shots, no grainy, exhausted new parent selfies. Just pristine, commercial-grade photos that feel oddly hollow. People have started comparing timelines, analyzing facial differences between appearances, and asking, why does the same child look noticeably different in photos taken days apart? The public might not have proof, but they have instincts. And more, those instincts are screaming that something about this entire story doesn't add up. Meghan's defenders love to fall back on one argument. She's just private, but there's a fine line between privacy and deception. And it looks like that line's been crossed. We're not talking about a mother shielding her children from the spotlight. We're talking about someone accused of faking pregnancies, rotating child stand-ins, and leveraging a royal narrative that may not even be real. And through it all, Meghan and Harry continue to cash in on the royal brand. She still signs her name as Duchess of Sussex. He still demands royal treatment abroad, and the palace still hosts their bios on the official royal website. No consequences, no accountability, just silence. Loud, complicit silence. And maybe that's the most disturbing part of all, because when powerful institutions turn a blind eye to what might be the biggest PR con in royal history, the deception isn't just personal, it's systemic. The public may never get smoking gun proof, but truth has a habit of surfacing, and when the illusion finally collapses, when the media stops protecting them, and the palace can't keep quiet, the fallout could be far more explosive than anyone is ready for. This isn't just about two people bending the truth. It might be the most carefully orchestrated royal charade the world has ever seen. So now, the question isn't just if Meghan's story is real, it's how long they can keep the illusion alive. Because the cracks are showing, the public is watching, and the truth, it always finds a way out. When it does, this might not just be a scandal, it could be the unraveling of a royal myth we were never meant to question. If you found this as shocking as we did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, because the deeper we dig, the wilder it gets. And trust us, this story is far from over.